Well, hey everybody, Mike Griffith here. Welcome to tonight's Friday Night Mike. Back on the front porch. It's warm, but it's not that warm. I was able to get through the day without overheating. I don't even have a beverage with me here tonight to stay cool. So counting on you guys to keep me cool tonight. Nothing too outrageous tonight. Tonight I told myself, this has got to be a positive show tonight, right? We've got to have some positivity. I'm going to go ahead and let me go ahead and share this show right now to my Facebook page and some of the people that I'm Facebook friends with. I know a lot of you are watching on Dog Nation. Appreciate that. This is always the best channel to get it on. But every now and then I try to share it at the beginning of the show because you just never know what you might get from some other fan bases. Because this has been a crazy week. It's so crazy that I admittedly, I can't keep up with everything. And I think I've said that before. Where is it at? Part of the problem is that even if you're keeping up with it, even if you're keeping score, we don't really know who's in charge here. And I'm going to explain that in what I mean in a minute. It's kind of, I don't know, is it discouraging? Is it encouraging? It's almost as if the NCAA says no football, the Power 5 conferences say, well, who are you? Really the power rests with the Power 5. So let's see here. Tonight's headline, staying positive and sharing college football takes. I like that. Staying positive and sharing college football takes. That's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to stay positive. If I start to get off topic and I don't stay positive, then you all need to rein me in here because I look at the comments while I'm doing the show, as you know. And it's been a busy week. For Georgia, one of the players, Devon Wilson, a redshirt sophomore, basically said he's going into the transfer portal. And it's kind of one of those good news, bad news things if you're a beat guy, because Devon Wilson is he's a good dude. I mean, he's worked very hard. He's one of the South Florida recruits. He came in highly ranked, and he had a big interception against Notre Dame last year, a momentum-turning interception in the second half of that win for Georgia over Notre Dame. And yet, when I looked at the depth chart this year, I'm not sure just how productive Devon Wilson was really going to be in terms of opportunities, right? Was he going to be the nickel? I don't know. Mark Webb is a senior, and I kind of felt like Mark was going to be the lead guy. Tyreek Stevenson, a guy that we all know about Tyreek. Tyreek is a guy, an incredible talent. We saw Tyreek flash here and there. Wasn't necessarily assignment sound. His teammates told us at the beginning of the year that, Tyreek had to learn to put the time in. I mean, they kind of said that indirectly. But and that's typical for a freshman, especially in a Kirby Smart defense. It's very complex. And now that Kirby has recruited all these guys, and really most of these guys are second and third year guys. I was telling somebody today, just how talented is the Georgia defense. I don't think people really get it, but maybe this will put it into perspective. So I'm going to throw some numbers out there at you, and you might roll your eyes and say they're just statistics, but I'm going to make a point here. So as we know, and Georgia fans can probably recite this by memory because these numbers mean nothing. At the end of the day, they got shellacked by LSU, and all the defense in the world numbers didn't matter that night in the SEC title game. But Georgia was number one in the nation in scoring defense. They were number one in the nation in rushing defense. They were number 3 in the nation in total defense. They were number 8 in pass efficiency defense. And yet, when you looked on the all-SEC AP team at the end of the year, there was no Georgia Bulldogs on the first team. Now, how can that be? How can a defense... And you say, well, maybe they missed out on J.R. Reed. We did see J.R. Reed make some All-American teams. Okay, maybe. You know how many defensive players were drafted from Georgia? 1. Tate Crowder, last pick of the draft. So what that tells you is that a lot of the guys, like almost all of the key guys, are back from a team that did all that last year. Now, Kirby will tell you, that doesn't mean anything. They're guarding against complacency. They have to. Headlines, recruiting rankings, they don't mean squat. It means absolutely nothing. Georgia can have the number 2 class, the number 1 class, number 1. If you don't win, it doesn't matter. It means that either the ratings were wrong or you didn't develop your talent to be the number 1 or number 2 team. So boasting on recruiting rankings does absolutely nothing for me. Now, some people find hope in this. Well, this year's class, this kid, they're all undefeated. I get it. Everybody buys into recruiting. I kind of need to see it. Now, Georgia's done a good job with a lot of these 5-stars, but some of these 5-stars, they're not even here anymore. Justin Fields, he's on the cover of magazines. He ain't wearing a Georgia uniform. That's part of the issue, too. Brenton Cox, he's down there wearing a Florida Gator uniform now. That's another 5-star. So having the great 5-stars is one thing. Developing them and keeping them in the program. Cade Mays, yeah, he was a 5-star. He's going to be lacing it up for Tennessee, if not this year, next year. So all the recruiting rankings in the world. Now, that said, recruiting is still very important, and I'm a little surprised by a decision that Georgia made, at least professed to have already made, in this pandemic COVID-19 year. All we hear, the mantra, over and over and over. What's the most important thing that all these schools, that the NCAA, that the coaches, what do they all talk about? They all talk about what's doing best for the players. Make the players a priority. So I saw where Texas A&M and Arkansas are scheduled to play that little game in Dallas every year now, right? And A&M basically said, no, we're not going to do it. Not in a COVID-19 year. We're going to keep that game on our campus. It's an assigned home game. And I said, bravo. A&M is going to protect the players. Georgia says, oh yeah, we've already talked to Florida. We're going to go down to Jacksonville. Georgia wants to protect the tradition. So they want to play in front of a stadium, which for the Jags, I believe, the Jacksonville Jaguars, have already said they're not going to have more than 25% of the crowd there. So Georgia is going to put their players on an airplane, fly them 349 miles away, in a hotel, maybe 2 nights, to play Florida in Jacksonville in what should be a home game, because that's the tradition. Even though there's no tailgating, even though the stands are going to be 75% empty, why are they doing this? I'll tell you what, because they're stubborn and they don't think it through. I'm reading right now all this stuff. Oh, Georgia's recruiting. Everybody's freaking out. The South Florida kid, he's staying in South Florida. Oh, this is a bad year for Georgia. Well, you know what? You get 4 SEC home games and you're giving one of them away. You're giving away what would probably be the biggest home recruiting weekend of the year, and that's when you play Florida. Because you want to go play it in Jacksonville, in a cold NFL stadium, in a bad neighborhood and part of town, and I say that with statistics to back it up. I mean, 2 years ago, somebody got shot in a parking lot after the game. I mean, I'm walking to my car. I'm a 200-pound guy, and I'm looking both ways. It's dark. There's nobody out there. I'm thinking, what in the world are we doing here? Versus Sanford Stadium, one of the best game day environments in the country. But Georgia wants to give that game up, okay? Because that's tradition. And Florida goes, oh, yeah, tradition. Oh, yeah, keep coming. Because we're 70 miles away. Keep coming. Weekend visits, kids can go to that game or just come to our campus 70 miles away. Tradition, Florida, please. Georgia, more tradition. Come on, common sense. This is COVID-19 year. This is a pandemic year. This is a year you do not put your kids on an airplane unless you absolutely have to put your kids on an airplane. That is a designated home game for Georgia. And they're saying they're voluntarily going to fly 349 miles away while Florida gets on a bus and goes 70 miles. That's what Georgia's saying. They want to protect tradition more than they want to protect the student athletes. I got a problem with that. I think it's dumb. So, you may be wondering why I'm wearing my South Beach t-shirt. I had to make a decision. I want to be entertaining, and sometimes you got to take chances. And I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to be kind of corny here, but with purpose. I'm going. I've talked on here before about the power of positive thinking. The old psychology experiment where you got the guys. One guy lines up on a free throw line and practices 10 free throws with a basketball, and the guy at the other end of the court pretends to shoot 10 baskets, right? Equal skills. You do this with enough players. And then you say, okay, now that you've had those 10 shots, you with the basketball, you pretending, now we're going to test you with 10 more shots. And the guy that pretended to shoot 10 free throws makes a higher percentage than the guy that actually took 10 free throw shots. And why is that? Because the guy pretending to take the free throws envisions every shot going in. Positive reinforcement versus the guy who misses some, right? So, they handed these sunglasses out in New Orleans this year before we left the Sugar Bowl. This is the site of this year's national championship game. And for kicks and giggles, and for fun and entertainment, cheap and corny as it may be, I'm going to don the Miami sunglasses and the beach towel. Because I'm going to envision the college football championship game taking place in Miami this season. I'm going to think positive. It's karma. I'm prepared to go. I got my South Beach shirt, I got my beach towel, and I got my Miami glasses. I'm thinking positive. I need normal. This is normal. This is where we're at as a society. I'm telling you that what I'm wearing is normal, okay? Because this suggests some optimism of a college football championship game. I will probably regret this for a long time once Jeff Santel and Connor Riley and Brandon Adams and BJ Sweeney see this. But I want you guys to know I haven't flipped out. Everything's good. I just decided to think positive tonight and present the image. And if you use your imagination, as I sit out here on my front porch, it's probably 85, 90 degrees. The humidity is probably around 65 or 70%. If I use my imagination, I can hear the waves crashing on the shoreline. I can smell the suntan lotion in the air, right? So, that's my moment of humor and positive thinking, because I want to be in Miami. You know where the next two championship games are? No sunglasses and beach towel needed. 2022's championship game is in Indianapolis. Indianapolis? Where was I when they made that decision? Now listen, I've been in Lucas Oil Stadium for Big Ten championship games. I saw Michigan State beat Ohio State there. Urban Meyer, the great Urban Meyer, and he is a great coach. I saw Michigan State beat him by double digits. Did you know that 2013 Michigan State team should have gone to the playoff, beat every Big Ten opponent by 10 points or more? Something that had not been done since like 1941 or 1939 Michigan, for a Big Ten team to run the table with double digits didn't make the playoff because there wasn't one. It was the final year, and I'm here to tell you, had Michigan State been in a playoff in 2013, the year they beat Stanford in the Rose Bowl, they would have won it because that Florida State team could have been had. I think we saw that. So I just want to make that point. So 2022 national title game, Indianapolis. 2023, Los Angeles. 2024, Houston. Now, I guess there's some beach around LA. They're saying Los Angeles Stadium at Hollywood Park, Inglewood, California. I saw some overhead shots of it. It looks like some space station. It doesn't even, I don't know. Los Angeles, the Rose Bowl, the game just gets swallowed up in it. And the water's too cold. So I'm kind of like, I'm a big fan of South Florida. Every year I go to South Florida and take a little time off. This year I did not get on the airplane and go to Fort Lauderdale and pick out the hotel and the beach. I didn't do it. I could really use it. I could really use a break. You're probably going, yeah, we just saw that stupid bit with the sunglasses and towel. You sure could use a break. But I really could. And it's a great place to go because you can walk and there's all these historic and colorful houses and there's man of war washed up on the beach. They look like bubble gum. Like somebody blew a bubble and just left it there. And you're like, oh, that's poisonous. So it's like, oh yeah, you don't touch that. Like seriously, that's in the ocean. Like, so I'm not getting in like for years in this part of the beach again because these things are in here with 20-foot tentacles. So I had to skip the man of war trip and the South Florida trip and make do. And as I've said, kind of learn to eat around the worm. Things aren't ideal, obviously, but every day still counts. It's still one day less we got on the planet. It's one day we've got to make the most of. It may not be perfect, but I'm not going to go curl up in the fetal position and hide under the bed. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to take measured risks. I'm going to wear my mask. I'm going to be careful. I'm going to wash my hands and use hand sanitizer in my car every time I pump the gas or open a door. I'm going to take all the but I'm going to move forward. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to continue to do my stories for Atlanta Journal-Constitution Dog Nation because that's what I signed up for. That's my ambition. And the players, they want to keep playing. We've talked about this. You folks that watch me regularly know it's what we talk about every week. So Stuart Mandel, he's kind of the big cheese of the Athletic, and I thought he had a very insightful tweet that really kind of wrapped up the week and kind of tells you where we are, because we're always kind of, well, every time I see somebody, what do you cover college football? Oh, hey, Mike, like, what do you think's going to happen? Well, I'm always going to be positive, okay, because that's just how you get things done. I mean, being negative, there's a time for critical analysis, typically after a football game when we're second-guessing football coaches because we all know what play they should have called, obviously, or what quarterback they should have played, whatever. But I try to stay pretty positive. But Stewart put this out. Mandel put this out. If you don't follow Stewart on Twitter, he's a good follow. Pac-12 delays start of season until September 19th. Texas to allow 50,000 in stands for their game on September 5th. Obviously, two different schools of thought, but two different states, two different governments. The Pac-12, many California schools. What do you got? 4. Southern Cal, UCLA, Stanford, Cal, right? 4. 2 Arizona, 6. Oregon State, Washington State, Utah, Colorado. Still trying to figure that one out. That's the Pac-12. So they're going to delay till September 19th. That'd be the third week of the season. Texas saying they're going to allow 50,000. That sounds great. Sounds great for Texas to say they're going to let 50,000 stands in. Let's hope so. Let's hope the numbers dictate that we can do that. Let's hope that people are responsible enough to distance. The Texas Tech president saying that if there are 20% of your team that test positive, let's say 17 scholarship players, then that's enough to cancel the game. I mean, where do these numbers come from? Somebody do a scientific study? I don't think that's right. You're telling me you couldn't play a game with 68 guys? The NFL does it every week with 52 or 45, right? And then Stewart concludes, probably the biggest key takeaway, nobody in charge. Nobody in charge, okay? So what does he mean by that? So you go to the ESPN website, and looks like my ESPN website crashed here. So the news of today, and reading a Heather Dienich story, and Heather, she I believe is the vice president of the Football Writers Association. Heather says that the NCAA Board of Governors on Friday basically avoided making any decisions about fall championships. This was at the request of FBS conference commissioners. They're saying, look, don't decide anything now. Don't decide anything on July 24th. How about we wait until we have more information? Because these numbers are bouncing all over the place. And good luck deciphering these numbers. And what does it mean? Are we talking death rate? Are we talking infection rate? Number of tests? Percentage of positives? Cumulative positives? Current positives in your state? What about the age group? How does the demographics affect the positivity rate? There's so much to try to wrap our brain around. It's hard to make sense of these numbers, but what it's not hard to make sense of is this. And I go back to what I said at the start of the show. The schools need to do what's best for the college football players. Period. They need to, A, give them the freedom to make their own decisions, which they have done by saying they will protect their eligibility, give them another year, keep them in good standing if they choose not to play. Nobody is going to make these college football players play football. Nobody is going to force them to do that. They're not being forced to do that. That said, I want to dial it back to April when I picked up the phone and I called, to me one of the elders, when there's a question of football, and I go to the mountain and I climb to the top of the mountain via my cell phone, calling Gene Stallings in Paris, Texas. And I say, Coach Stallings, this is Mike Griffith. How you doing? Hey, Mike, how are you? How are the kids? This is Gene. He wants to know how the family is. No, he really wants to know. Because that's Gene Stallings, true legend, true hero, motivational, incredible man, intelligent. And I call him up in April. I say, Coach, you know what's going on with this COVID? Yeah, I know. What do you think should happen? And Coach Stallings tells me I would want my kids on campus where I could take care of them. Is that really a revelation? I would want my kids on campus where I could take care of them. Because if they're off campus, we don't know where they're at. They're at the gym, they're at the pizza parlor, they're downtown. They're not staying home, playing video games, and not going outside, okay? They're 18 to 24 years old. They're out. They're about. If they're playing football, I can tell you where they are 80 to 90% of the time. They're in that football building, or they're in meetings, or they're in treatment, or they're in the tutorial center, or they're in a classroom. Because there is no other time. And they're around other people, all of their teammates, who've all been tested. Versus, in the hometown and the society, I don't know the random number of 100 people. Have they been tested? Are they interacting with older people in higher risk groups? Their relatives, the grandma, the aunt, the barber, the pharmacy worker, the bus driver. To me, that's a more volatile situation than being on campus and being in a controlled environment where there's doctors. And Coach Stallings called this way back in April. I mean, Gene Stallings, once again, at the front of the logic. And now I saw Greg Sankey got backed into some corner in some ridiculous HBO interview, some slam piece, which unfortunately, a lot of people, I wouldn't call them journalists, but a lot of people in production aim for these slam pieces. You know, let me tell you how I think it's supposed to work as a journalist. Theoretically, you know, and I used to get nuts, and thank goodness I don't work, you know, at Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Dog Nation. They don't say, go out and write this. Go out and write this story. They say, go out there and get the story. They say, go out there and learn the story. They say, tell us the truth. We don't know what the answer is going in. Ask the questions and let the facts and the information speak for itself. And we've got a CEO that spoke to our group yesterday. Let me tell you, it just charged everybody's batteries up because he said, I just want the truth. It didn't say anything about politics. He didn't say, it was, I just want, we're going to write the truth. And so when I do my interviews, you know, well, what are you going to, you know, I used to have boss, what are you going to write for tomorrow? I don't know. Let me go to practice. Let me see what the coach says. Well, can you give me a story on this? Well, I don't know if that is the story. So I go out there, you get the information, right? It's not like baking a pie where you know all the ingredients before going in. Yeah, I'm going to bake a apple pie, so I need brown sugar, and I don't know, I don't cook, so I'm not even going to fake it. But I'm going to get the apple pie ingredients. That's not how journalism works. Journalism is, let me go out there and get all the ingredients, and then I'm going to figure out what the story is. Let me go out there and report the heck out of this. Let me talk to people on both sides of this. Let me talk to people. Let me make sure I cover all the bases, give everybody an opportunity to speak. And then once I have that information, then I'm going to present a story. That is reporting. Now, there are columns where we make it very clear, this is my opinion. Okay? But right now, as I sit here, I've got a daughter who is type 1 diabetic. I've got parents that are over 70, and I'm over 50. And I feel like I've got all the bases covered on the risk groups here. And I want to know, what is truly best? What is the true mean here? What is the true center of this argument? And as I said, it's very hard to use numbers, so all we can do is apply common sense. And I'm going to throw out fans in the stands. I'm going to throw out politics. I'm going to throw out potential lawsuits. And I'm going to say this. Where are the college football players safest? Are they safest in the team environment, working out, playing football, or are they safer with no football, back in town, back at home, with no doctors and 24/7? That, to me, it just boils it down. What's best for the student athlete? That's it. Don't think about anything else. Recently, I had to decide on a car, okay? I was trading my car in. And my son, I'm so proud of my son. He's 23 going on 80. He's got wisdom. I said, well, Michael, I said, you know, I'm looking at this car versus this car. And if I get this car, then A, B, and C. And if I get this car, then D, E, and F. And he said, Dad, just take all of that away. And which car is better for you? Forget everything. Put it in a vacuum. Which car is better for you? Okay, that's how I'm going to decide it. All right? And that's how I decided my car. Thank you to my 23-year-old son, once again. When we talk about college football, let's take all the politics out of this. Let's take all the fear of retribution and accountability, because we know these presidents, when they're under the spotlight, they don't like that. These academians, no. They would rather do it in a board meeting and send emails, okay? They're not like Nick Saban and the Gene Stallings and the Kirby Smarts and the Dabo Sweeneys, the guys that'll walk out there and talk to the world. They're comfortable in the spot. These school presidents, no. Most of these guys, they're not comfortable with it, okay? So let's think about it. What is best for the college football athlete? That's it. That's all I want you to consider. And when you see the debates on Twitter and when you hear the arguments with your friends, just ask that one question. What is best for the college athlete? And ask yourself this. If you had a son or a daughter in college sports, where would you want them to be during this crisis? Would you want them in the sports program, around the team doctors and other athletes who'd been tested, or would you want them back home trying to figure out what to do with their time, or going to the local gym, or going to the local restaurant with having to make doctor's appointments and waiting, how long do we have to wait now to get to a doctor? You ask yourself that. That's it. That's all I've got for you on that. I want to switch gears. I always touch base on the COVID-19 because this is an ongoing discussion. To me, again, everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got to do what they think is best, and I don't want to. I just want to give you my logic and my rationale, and if you disagree, that's cool. But I've thought about it, and I've tried to listen, and I try to make responsible decisions as a son of 2 senior citizens, as a father of 3 20-somethings, as a journalist, and as somebody that covers an athletic program. So that's that. So I saw this. This was pretty interesting. Pick 6 previews, and there's a lot of really cool accounts to follow on Twitter. And I like the Pick 6 previews, guys, at Pick 6 previews. Good follow. And they say percent of 120,000 votes that view a program as a blue blood. And it was interesting to me because those of you that have seen me, heard me, know me, whether it's radio or SEC Network or Georgia or Tennessee or Alabama or Auburn or wherever I've been over 30 years, you know, I kind of like that I've been at a lot of schools. I've enjoyed the process. I've enjoyed the different schools and the different experiences and traditions and perspective. And let me tell you, man, the SEC is so cool. You cannot go wrong in the SEC. That's what I would tell you. People say all the time, what do you like best, Griff? I said, well, it kind of changes. Like back in the 90s, you couldn't beat a Tennessee-Florida game. In the late 90s, you couldn't beat a Tennessee game against Florida at the Swamp. It didn't get any hotter. Earlier in the 90s, when I was just getting into the SEC, 93, 94, 95, the Iron Bowl was unbelievable. Terry Bowden's 11-0 team was remarkable. They were under Pat Dye, they were 5-6, 5-5-1. The talent was there. They were on probation. They were not on television. How backwards is that? That 11. So blue blood programs. 94% of the people said Alabama's a blue. I would agree with that. I think Alabama, when we think about, you know how he used to base it? And I don't know, free plug for Foot Locker, right? Like when you travel around the country and you go in the Foot Locker, and yeah, they got the local team rack, but there'd be like 5 other schools you could buy paraphernalia for. And it seemed like it was Alabama and Michigan. Oh, cringe as a Michigan State guy to say it. Alabama and Michigan and USC, and who else would we talk about? Alabama, Michigan, USC, and Notre Dame. You could get the jerseys anywhere you went in the country. So here's what Pick 6 preview said. 94% say Alabama, 92% Ohio State. They've gotten in there. 81% Oklahoma. 76% Notre Dame, 73% USC, 70% Michigan, 66% Texas, 65. I'm looking at this now. Come on, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're telling me that only one of the top 8 programs, one of the top 8 blue blood vote getters is from the SEC? Come on now. Where did you do this? Where did you do this poll? Then it's Penn State. Then it's Florida State. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now we're saying that only one out of the top 10 programs in the country, one of the top 10 blue bloods is an SEC team. Come on. No. Now we get Florida. Florida's a blue blood. When did Florida get good? Like 1990? Okay, Sprayer had his run in the 60s. Pretty sure Georgia ruined his season. But Florida's not a blue blood. Florida State? No. Florida State, no. Hey, LSU, 41%. Okay. There's Miami. There's Tennessee. There's Clemson. There's Georgia. Georgia, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16? And then Auburn? Are you kidding me? Georgia and Auburn are both top 10 blue blood programs, folks. Let me tell you. All you got to do is go to the stadium. All you got to do is spend a little time in the community of Georgia and Auburn, and you'll understand. You know when Auburn built their basketball arena? And Bruce Pearl's a guy I covered it, and probably the most fun I ever had on a beat of all the coaches I ever covered was Bruce Pearl, because it was completely open. Every practice, every road, everything was open. For him to win at Auburn in basketball is ridiculous and amazing to me. The Auburn basketball arena has skyboxes on the ground floor. You might say, no, wait a minute. How do you have skyboxes on the ground floor? Because they don't face the court. They face outward, out of the building. Now, you might say, well, Grip, what are you talking about? Skyboxes on the ground floor that face outward? That doesn't do anything for basketball. No, it doesn't. But it's a great place to tailgate for football. And that was how they built the arena for Auburn basketball. They said, well, we'll give you some of that basketball money, but we need some tailgating spots at the bottom of that arena. That's what Auburn thinks of their basketball. So when you hear about all these Auburn fans, they're winning. That's all it is. Bruce Pearl gets everybody excited about everything. I mean, it's just what he does. He's what Bruce does. He's fun. He's a blast. Rock and roll. And if you can win in basketball at Auburn, then you can win anywhere. I covered Auburn basketball. It was very sad when I covered it. Blue blood programs. Thought that was interesting. Something a little bit more local for my Georgia fans. And the Georgia fans are, let me tell you, we got fans from all over watching this. Georgia fans they're by far the nicest. Now, you can say what you want out of this, but in terms of, like, their former coaches, they don't hate their former coaches. Georgia fans don't try to bury them or throw or stick a cross in them, and like they're a vampire, try to kill. They don't do that. Like, I had Mark Richt on my Monday night show 3 weeks ago, and the Georgia fans couldn't wait to come on here and thank Mark Richt. No, he didn't win a national title, and there were some close calls, and people can second guess this or that, but they couldn't wait to thank Mark Richt for his service. I had Ray Goff on about a week ago. Kirby Smart came on the show to thank Ray Goff for his 7 years as a Georgia head coach. Ray had one 10-win season, okay? He didn't get over the hump. He was an SEC Player of the Year. He should be in the school's Circle of Honor. We're going to talk about that on another show. But how nice, and they say good things. And on this next Monday night, I'm going to have Jim Donnan on. And there's going to be Georgia fans that are going to show up, and these comments that you're looking at it right now on social media, just like me, and they're going to thank Jim Donnan. Because they understand that all these coaches played a part and played a role. And when they were at Georgia, they were trying to win. They were doing their best. They weren't here to lose. They weren't here to misrepresent the school. They weren't here to fail. Now, they didn't win the big prize. Oh, everybody, 1980, whatever. Okay, got it, all right? There's other measures of successful programs. To me, I want to see where the program's at now. I want to see the consistency. Georgia right now is the only program in the nation that's finished in the top 7 the last 3 years in a row. That's consistency. Now, they didn't get past Alabama, and everybody tip your cap to Nick Saban. Let me tell you, I did a show in Birmingham this week, and it was called 3-Man Front, and it's on WJOX. Those guys do a great job, and I can't say enough about Landrum Roberts and Aaron Suttles and Cole Kublik. And these guys do a great job. It's one of my favorite. I do 3 shows. I do in Athens, the Ref Show on Athens Monday morning at 8:30. I do Birmingham at 2:30 Monday. And I do the Bill King Show out of Nashville on 9:30 on Tuesdays. Love doing these shows. Done these shows with these guys for years. I go on and I get 15, 20 minutes of just like what I think. They'll ask me some questions. They'll try to poke the bear. And this week I did in Alabama. I did Tuscaloosa show with Wimp Sanderson. It's fun. We have a good time with it. But the Birmingham guys start out by saying, Mike, what do you think of Mark Emmert? Mark Emmert said blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, is that what Nick told him to say? Okay, inside joke here. If you don't already know it, Mark Emmert is the guy that hired Nick Saban at LSU. Okay? And you go, oh. Well, listen, here's the deal. Nick Saban's an innovator. All right? Nick Saban is the crew chief that looks at the rule book and says, it doesn't say anything about titanium hubs here. It doesn't say they're illegal. Doesn't say they're legal. Doesn't say they're illegal. Let's put titanium hubs on the car. My car will be 10 pounds lighter than everybody else, and I'll be faster and more balanced. And then everybody's trying to figure out what. And then finally, an inspector goes, "He's using titanium hubs." And NASCAR goes, "Is there a rule against that?" No. And then they say, "Well, should there be?" And that's kind of what Nick Saban's done. He's got how many guys in the press box? 20? Is that he does? Was there a rule against it? No. Should there be? Well, I guess we should make a rule against it. Well, what? Nick Saban's got former players practicing, NFL guys. Should there be a rule against it? And they have to decide because Saban is constantly innovating, and you keep changing the assistant coaches around him, and he keeps finding ways to win. And you just go, I give up. This guy's unbelievable. But you know what Alabama has that a lot of other schools don't? They have a commitment to winning championships. And they're going to do everything they can to win titles. They're going to put the championship drive ahead of the traditions, right? Alabama used to have a tradition of playing big games in Birmingham. And you know what? They figured out it made more sense to play the games in Tuscaloosa. It was another recruiting weekend. It was more revenue for the city of Tuscaloosa. The infrastructure around the university grew and prospered. And as it grew, it elevated the university. After 2023, Georgia will be there. They will not be playing in Jacksonville after 2023. And I think they should not play in Jacksonville this year. They say they're still going to play. I think it's still time for that to change. So here's some interesting stats here. Last year we heard so much about how bad the Georgia offensive coordinator James Coley was. And how in the world do you run the RPO with Jake Fromm, who's never going to carry the ball? Because he's not the most athletic guy, number one. And number two, common sense, you can't afford to get Jake injured, so you're not going to run your quarterback when you don't have a backup. And yet, according to the @SEC-StatCat, Georgia was second in the league with the highest RPO per carry at 6.85, behind only Kentucky and their wide receiver playing quarterback, and ahead of LSU, and ahead of Mississippi, and ahead of Alabama. Wait a minute. Georgia's RPO game with Jake Fromm averaged more yards per carry in the run-pass option rushes than Alabama did. How's that? Who would have thought that? SEC teams with the best RPO rushing success rate. Now, this is based on down and distance, and I don't have the formula in front of me, but I'd guess getting 4 yards on 4 yards or more on first down, or executing on 3rd and 3 or shorter. Alabama was the most successful team. Georgia number 2, ahead of LSU. So even with a non-mobile quarterback that was never a threat to keep it, Georgia was second in the SEC in RPO success rate. So now Georgia has an honest-to-goodness real RPO quarterback in Jamie Newman. Jamie Newman is the real deal. 6'4", 230 pounds. Played at Wake Forest. Now, Wake was not as bad as you think. My opinion is this. I don't think Jamie Newman's going to be as good a passer as maybe some other people do. Because what I know that you may not know is that Wake Forest had some really good receivers, and Dave Clawson is a very good offensive mind and did some things. And I don't want to take anything away from Jamie, but he's going to see different coverage in the SEC. And it's going to be harder for these Georgia receivers to get free against the proliferation of press coverage they're going to see in the SEC versus what Jamie saw in the ACC. I do not expect Jamie to have as efficient numbers on the tight window throws and deep ball throws. Right out of the gate, I'm just going to tell you that. Even with George Pickens coming back. Now, I do think Jamie Newman is going to be a very effective runner. Now, he's not coming to Georgia to run the football. He is coming to Georgia to move the offense and to win a championship and improve his draft stock. You know what he needs to do to improve his draft stock? He needs to beat Alabama on September 19th. That's going to be interesting. Wait and see if they beat Alabama. So talked about blue bloods. You know, there was a really cool story I got put on to. Geez, it was just last night. It seems like so much has happened in the last 24 hours. Georgia's safety, Richard LeCount. You see him on a lot of these preseason lists as a preseason All-American. And Richard surprised a young heart patient the day before she was to go in with surgery, shows up at her house and does a TikTok video. And you might say, well, that's just, listen, that's changing lives. To me, that's where I go, you know what? That's what's special, right? When we talk about athletes and we talk about being a part of the fabric of our society and we talk about the important role that athletics plays, what we also talk about is role models. And that's kind of a shrinking thing now because everybody's going all political. You're afraid to have your kid root for anybody because you don't know what country's flag he might be holding up or what message might be on a shirt, whatever you think. And I'm not passing any judgment here nor there, but sports has become politicized, and so the whole role model thing's kind of going out the window because you just don't know what's coming next. Who said what? Really? I didn't know that. Does he agree or disagree with me? Because you try to influence your children on that or teach them, and now somebody who is in another part of the world has a different political view, and it gets real confusing real fast. So the whole role model thing is endangered, quite frankly. So it was refreshing to see Richard LeCount, preseason All-American safety for Georgia, go to this kid's house, this young lady's house. He was supposed to meet her at the Georgia G-Day game. Obviously, that got canceled. The mother had contacted his mother and said, my daughter's a big fan. And the mother, Richard LeCount, said, well, let's do something. Let's get Richard, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. And I don't know where you sit, like I said, on the side of the fence politically. But I know this. We do need sports. Sports is an important part of our society. And when I moved down south, it had been my lifelong goal to cover SEC football, because it matters more here. I knew that as a 7-year-old. I was 7 years old and I figured it out. Nothing's changed, okay? And people, it's a religion down there, What's so funny about that? It's a community is what it is. And I say, well, now wait a minute. Before you knock it, before you start telling Southern people that they're crazy. I had a guy in Michigan when I was covering Michigan State, and Michigan State went to the Rose Bowl. Mark D'Antonio wanted to get 50,000 at his spring game the next year because he wanted to show recruits like, hey, Michigan State's all in. And I'm writing about this, and I'm talking about it on my radio show, and one of the other writers go, boy, you got no life if you're going to a spring game. That's just sick. You're sick in the head if you're going to watch a spring football. I said, who are you to say that? Who are you to say that? Why can't fans go and congregate and celebrate something that they all enjoy? What's so crazy about that? What's so crazy about tailgating and having the tradition of seeing your neighbors and spending time with business cohorts and networking at a football game? What's so crazy and wrong with that? That's completely healthy. That's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful way for our society to come together and share our commonalities and stay in touch with one another. There's nothing wrong with that. I said, listen, all you got to do if you're in Georgia or all you got to do if you're in Tennessee is put on an orange tee, hat, and go to the game, and you're one of them, and you're in the crowd, you're part of it all. That's all you got to do. When I lived in Idaho, and listen, nothing against the Latter-day Saints, but I was not part of the Latter-day Saint church. And I drank Coca-Cola. I did. And I was not part of and 60% of the people that lived out in Idaho were of the Latter-day Saint religion. And therefore, the society and the events and the social world circulated around that church. And that's fine. And again, I'm not knocking it. But I was excluded from that because of my religion. I was not a Latter-day Saint. I'm not a Latter-day Saint. So, but in college football, all you got to do is put on the team colors and you're in. It doesn't matter what, you put on the team colors, you're in. That's it. What religion? We don't care. Color? Nope, don't matter. What country you from? Do you speak English? Nope. Can you say Tennessee? Can you say South Carolina? Can you say Florida? Can you say Go Gators? Can you say Roll Tide? That's all. That's it. Doesn't take much. Listen, this has been a really fun show. I want to look at the comments. I tried not to look during the show, especially when I had the sunglasses on at the start of the show. I'm sure, as I said, that is something I'm going to regret. But hey, you know what? It's Friday night. We've got a weekend ahead of us. We're going to make the most of it. We're getting closer to football season. There is a lot of questions. There is a lot of things up in the air, and we don't know who to listen to right now. And the truth of the matter is, there is not an answer right now. We won't know the answer for a couple more weeks. August 4th, this NCAA Board of Governors are going to convene again. They don't really have the power to stop there from being a football season. They do have the power to make a recommendation on fall championships. But let me tell you, if the Power 5 schools want to play football, there's going to be football, okay? The show must go on, right? And I refer to what I said earlier. You decide for yourself what's best for the college athletes. Here we go. Pat Patterson. Let's talk running backs. Who do you have as the number 3 back at Georgia? Kenny Mack or Kendall Milton? Neither. I've got Kenny Mack as the number 2 going in behind Zamir, and I've got James Cook as the number 3. Now, I could be wrong. Kendall Milton, for those of you who don't know, is one of the 5 stars from Georgia. He's from Fresno, California. He looks like Superman. He's big and strong and as big as a linebacker. Now, does he run like a linebacker or does he run like a running back? We don't know because Fresno, California ain't the SEC. It ain't South Florida. It ain't Metro Atlanta. It ain't Birmingham. It ain't Metro Nashville. It ain't Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a level down. Okay, it is Fresno, California. Good, but not great football. I don't know yet where Kendall Milton's at. So I'm not going to project a guy that I've never seen carry the football beating out James Cook, who I think that even though he'll be receiver first, I think James is going to get a lot of touches, 10 to 15 a game. This is a dynamic weapon, Devin Cook's little brother. He's been tremendously underutilized. Kirby says this because other teams scheme for him. That's an excuse. You find a way to get a guy like that the ball. Nick Chubb is special. Wow, okay. Are you playing Virginia this year or not? Charles Kaiser wants to say. I say no. And I'm going to tell you why I say no. Gary Stokan, to me, is one of the best bowl directors in the history of college football. All right? The Chick-fil-A president and CEO and the organizer of the Kickoff Classic, Gary Stokan, is one of the best bowl directors in the history of college football. I remember covering Tennessee in those Peach Bowls when they would lose the SEC champ. Nobody wanted to go to that game. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings in Atlanta, but nobody wanted to be there. That was the booby prize of the bowl games. And it had not for the sports writers. We wanted to be there because we wanted to eat Chick-fil-A. But for the fans, they didn't want to be there. Okay, that was, they were just there for the SEC title game, and now they get passed over by the Citrus Bowl and the Outback Bowl, and nobody wanted to be there. The team didn't want to be there. They laid down and played dead and got beat by Maryland, and Clemson spied on their practices another year, and they lost to Clemson because the ACC team gets to practice at Georgia Tech behind closed doors, and the SEC team goes to a high school where anybody can get in. They had cameras and all sorts of stuff. Gary Stokan is the best bowl, one of the best, because now look at him. Now look at the Peach Bowl. Look at how hard Gary's worked to help turn Atlanta. The College Football Hall of Fame is now in Atlanta. I would have never dreamed it would leave South Bend, and I presented there twice. And South Bend is a great college football city, especially in the summer when they have that ceremony, and it's sweltering down here, and you get 70s and 80s up there at times. But Gary has turned Atlanta into a destination college football city. Now, I say that because I want to establish Gary Stokan as an expert to you. Because last week, Gary Stokan went on radio in Alabama and basically spelled out the scenario that he had heard. And if Gary heard it, it's real. Because you better believe the guy putting on 3 games in Atlanta on the opening weekend knows what the heck they're talking about in the SEC meetings. And he said there's a chance that they're going to have a conference-only schedule plus 1 non-conference game. Now, if that happens, if there's truly fire behind that smoke, if you're Georgia's already said they're going to use their 1 non-conference game to protect the Georgia Tech rivalry. So if that's going to be their 1 non-conference game, then that wipes out Virginia. Florida State, if the ACC, which is now also reportedly talking about conference-only games, including Notre Dame, we're going to pretend they're part of the conference, and 1 non-conference, Florida State is going to use that provision to play Florida. So now Florida State will not play West Virginia in another one of those Kickoff Classic games. So Gary Stokan explained that if that's the scenario, Virginia and West Virginia will play on Monday night. That was last week. This week, he's talking to the Georgia audience. And he's saying, oh no, it's all still scheduled. And he's right, it is. And if it sounds like he's talking out of both sides of his mouth, it's because he is. Because technically, he's telling the truth about all of it. Yes, those games are still scheduled, but yes, there are provisions being made if they go with the schedule model. He's being completely honest with you, okay? But it sounds like conflicting messages, but it's not. It's like saying, are you going to bring an umbrella to school on Monday? No, if it doesn't rain, I'm not. Yes, if it does rain, I will. And that's what Gary's telling you. Here's what's going to happen. So to answer your question, I say no. I don't believe that there's going to be a Georgia-Virginia game. And to answer another question, which you have not asked, which I think deserves to be asked based on the Pac-12 moving their games back to September 19th, I believe that the SEC is going to do that too. That if I had to guess right now, I believe that this is a stall game. People want the season. They're going through the provisions. They're going to watch what happens with the NFL. They're going to watch what happens with Major League Baseball. We're going to learn. I mean, we're learning right now. This is all uncharted territory. Greg Sankey had a great phrase at the start of this. He said, it's like we're building the bridge as we cross the river. They're going to try and get as much info. I think they're going to stall the start of the season until the third week of September, collectively. And, you know, even though the Big Ten and the Pac-12 kind of just raced out there and blindsided everybody with their selfish decision, and I don't think necessarily that the SEC is responding to that. I think the decision to delay is what will give us more of a comfort margin, more knowledge, and kind of wrap our brain around the measured risks that are involved, and give ourselves more time to collect data and hopefully make more advances in modern medicine. Maybe even get more people tested. I know at Georgia they announced that they're going to test 24,000 students starting on August 10th. I hope they're doing that at all the schools. I hope all the schools are pouring their resources into testing, because that's the key. Testing and tracing, right? And then the sequester part. That's how that happens. So what else do we got here? John Benton's excited about your inside linebacker core. Listen, I like Monty Rice. I like Channing Tindall. I don't see Roquan Smith there. I'm not as excited. I like Monty. I think Monty's an NFL player. I don't think he's Roquan yet. I could be wrong. Nakobe Dean is an exciting guy. I saw Cole Kubelik rated Nakobe. He was a former 5-star, one of his impact players. Nakobe had a high ankle sprain last year. He's still graded out among the best linebackers in the country in pass defense, and the kid wasn't 100% until midway through the season. So there's that. Any other questions for me, guys? I really appreciate you guys joining me tonight on a Friday night. I enjoy doing the show. I enjoy talking with the football audience. It's great. We're so fortunate that we've got this outlet. I'm fortunate. I work for somebody, you know, what the old Dean Smith thing, the old joke, the only person that could stop Michael Jordan was Dean Smith. Listen, I'm no Michael Jordan, but what I am saying is I got a boss that lets us run with ideas, and that doesn't happen everywhere, and I'm thankful for that. And if you want to know what keeps me pumped up and gets me excited, I see people saying, "Oh, what does Mike drink?" I don't drink anything. I don't take anything. Okay, I have good coworkers. I had a bad start to the day. It's been a long week, and I had a coworker to talk to for an hour, and I thought to myself, you know, the fortunate people aren't the people that get down and that have issues, because that don't get down and don't have issues, because the truth of the matter is that we all get down and we all have issues. The fortunate people are the people that have people to talk to, and I've got, you know, obviously I got my parents. I told you earlier a story about talking to my son. I've got great supervisors, and I've got great coworkers. And so my parting message is to you: not just have a good weekend and a safe weekend, but think about who those people are in your life that you've turned to for counsel, for wisdom, for support. And just thank them. Just thank them. I'm not saying hug them. I'm not saying send them a card. I'm just saying take a moment to recognize who keeps you propped up and who you call on the phone when you have a bad day that keeps you going. All right? Because when they know that they're making a difference in your life, you know, they deserve to know that. And today I had a coworker do that for me. And the cool thing is, I could have called any one of them. I got 5 coworkers that'll do that for me. You know, that just happened to be who I knew would answer the phone at that time. So I'm pumped up. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this weekend. I'm looking forward to next week. I'm looking forward to the college football season. I'm looking forward to Miami. I'm going to think positive. I want you to think positive also. I'm going to close it out. If you've got any questions, ask them in the thread. I'll go back through and read all these comments. And yeah, I got the American flag, you bet. 82nd Airborne, man. Airborne, all the way. And thank you to all the veterans. And thank you to the people that support college football. Because this is the greatest game. And man, I just, you guys know I could keep talking all night. Can't say enough about it. Everybody have a great weekend. Thanks.